Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim DePola and Johnny C. live on Real Radio.
Yeah, it's a Saturday morning, and you know what that means. It means time for Florida Talk Real Estate. 2 hours of infotainment is what we promise you every Saturday, and, well, today we will deliver. I assure you. Thanks for being with us, 92.1, 101.7, wherever you might be on your iHeartRadio app. Thank you for being with us nice and out the gates here on a Saturday morning on Facebook. Florida Talk Real Estate on Facebook. Hello, everybody. If you're joining on YouTube, great to have you as well. Florida Talk Real Estate LLC on YouTube. Lots of entry points. By the way, you can be interactive with the show. If you're on Facebook, you can communicate with Jimmy D. Of course, you can pick up your phone and dial. Be a part of the show. Questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate, dial it up at 877-927-6969. Jimothy will line you up, and we'll get you going. Why? Because, well, we have the team of experts assembled to handle everything you got going on and so much more. I'm your boy, Johnny C., your air traffic control. Let us get you starting the lineup. Let's say good morning to Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. Hello, Michael. How are you on this Saturday?
I'm doing great this morning. I'm hoping the weather clears up today. It's a little bit dreary out. Is that the right word? A little bit dreary this morning.
Dreary works, yeah. It depends on where you're waking up. It depends on where you're waking up, because I know on the Treasure Coast they had a 5 in their first number.
Yeah, and we're about to change the clocks here, aren't we? Pretty soon.
Couple weeks, right?
No, Johnny. That's like this weekend, right?
I'm
Isn't it?
kidding. No, I think it's I think it's in a couple weeks. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I don't know. If you're bringing it up and we're changing clocks this weekend, thank goodness you're breaking it up.
You know, Johnny, if we were watching last weekend, I thought that the what you had around your face was part of your costume with the what was that, the Yoshi?
So I'm wearing a costume again today for our NFC, our football fans. I'm Bruce Arians today.
But I see it's it's a goatee mustache situation. Yeah, and it's awfully white. I didn't. So welcome to adulthood, I guess.
Oh, many years now, Michael. You're just now, yeah. So if you're watching on Facebook, you're seeing a very white goatee. When I met my wife, it was red.
So are you attributing that to your better half?
Yes,
marriage, yeah.
Yes, definitely the daughter. No, it like turned overnight. It was crazy. It went from like a really like a brilliant red to like my daughter's hair to white like overnight. It's but I don't fight it. You rock it. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But and yeah, I mean, if we want to mention the bald spot, we can do that too. Notice I wear a hat. Mike Rauch is a little braver than I am.
I rock it, and I got like direct like headlights coming right on down. This, you guys have found, this is your shiny beacon of hope right here.
Emphasis. I love it's exactly right. I got to keep going around the horn here. Let's welcome in my guy, Jimmy D. It's Jim DePola. He's our fearless leader. He's also the leader of a top producing Keller Williams team with the Florida Home Pros, Keller Williams Reserve Palm Beach. Jimmy D, how you be, my friend?
Good, Johnny. Good. I wanted to say, talking about the weather, In-house creative is here as they normally do to make us live on YouTube and Facebook, and then does all our videos behind the scenes. And one of the kids comes walking in, and he's wearing like this jacket. I don't even know what to call him, but the kind that you get like at Bass Pro Fishing or something. Like, it's cold outside, and he's coming in with the jacket. I'm like, you're from Tennessee. What the heck? So I was laughing about that.
Jim, I love it when you call them kids. These are like two grown adult men.
I know. They should smack me sometime. They'll probably put fake mustaches on my photos and stuff when they're doing stuff or whatever.
All right. So if we can get to make sure everybody's at work on time on Monday, we are setting the clock back this weekend.
Oh, I knew we are setting the clock back. I
don't pay attention anymore, evidently.
I knew it was Sunday, but now I'm trying to debate if I'm going to try it again this year. I haven't done it in a while, but I'm wondering if I'm going to try to not fall back. What's that? Oh, go back in time.
If I could turn back time.
I'm thinking about not doing it again this year.
I like it.
So my customers, if we make an appointment and we set the time, I'm always going to be an hour later than what you say, but I'm going to set it that way. So if you tell me 4 and 4 is really 3, I'm going to say, oh, can we meet at 5? I'm
You know what?
do it that way.
I feel like I'm on the radio with Greek again. I really do.
I did it. I did it for 1 year, and it lasted like 3 months. I got through like 3 months, but then it fell apart. And then once I slid back or fell back, I never got up again.
Yeah, I don't think that lasts long. I think you definitely.
I'm gonna try and see if I could do it again this year. I think I'll see.
Well,
he's like Kramer with levels, right?
Yeah, with levels.
You know,
we're gonna find out how good you are out the gates though, because you have like flights and like very important time meetings every day in your life. Like you have.
Well, I do have a rule. The one rule is like if I have to go to a government meeting, before a couple of times when I used to do short sales, I had to go to court, or if
jury duty.
Or something like that. Then I have to. Then I have to go. Then I have to go and and follow the rule, and I'll break the rule for that stuff. But for regular stuff, I don't want to fall back. So I'm going to try not to again. I'm going to try it again this year, see what happens.
Venezuela at one point, I don't know if they've still done. I feel like it changed back. But Hugo Chavez, who was their president until he passed, one of those president for life type personalities, he switched their time zone, so he was on the half hour. So yeah, he was a half hour different.
Cut it in the middle.
Than everybody else. So instead of an hour difference as a time zone, he was a half hour. And I think he did that to be unique. But probably if you could go back and like forget about, time zones and economic zones and everything, the half hour probably made some sense, right? There was probably some sense to it why it should be, 9:30 right now instead of 9 or 10:30 or 8:30, right? When we switch these hours back. But I always thought that was like,
well, there might be some value there, but when he goes, but just for me.
Yeah, just for us. Just for us.
Is where you just blow that all out of the water, right?
So I don't know how long that lasted, but it definitely was a thing. Maybe Venezuela can call in and tell us.
It sounds like that old Ben Stiller joke where remember they used to have the thing for the 7-minute abs. Remember that commercial for 7-minute abs?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then Ben Stiller came up with the idea. His character in one of the movies like, I'm going to do the 5-minute abs. I'm going to do the 5 minutes abs. So Chavez, we're not going to go back an hour, go back a half hour. Then Colombia's like, we're going to do 15 minutes.
Yeah. he switched
we're only
going to
give you 15 minutes. Only fall back 15 minutes in Colombia.
Right. So it's only 8:45 right now, boys.
I love it.
Right? Or 8:50.
Yeah, I think everybody should just have their own internal time clock instead of having it collectively and then.
Oh. Many of us do.
I'm 3 hours back. I'm 2 hours ahead.
I was going to say, Jim, I don't know how you haven't noticed that many people do, actually.
I know, right? Right.
Yeah.
So we got a lot to talk about today. One of the things we're going to talk about, Mike doesn't even know, and I hope he doesn't get mad about this, but I want to talk about appraisal contingencies, right? Is there a difference? What is the difference, and is there between a finance contingency and appraisal contingency? I know Mike knows this like the back of his hand, but I'm throwing it out there and throwing him under the bus with no prep, so we'll see how that works out. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about the market today. You know how much I love talking about the economic outlook of the market and things, what's going on. We have a lot of news that happened over the last 7 days, so we're going to talk about that and what it might mean to you here locally in the South Florida real estate market. We're going to talk about Zestimates. And what some people are saying is almost the collapse of the real estate venture of Zillow. Oh my gosh, realtors all over social media are having like their own like Kwanzaa Day or something, celebrating Zillow's recent failure. But I don't know if in the long run that failure is going to hold. But we do learn a lot. We've learned a heck of a lot about how sellers rely on information and how accurate that information is. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
It was certainly a hot topic, Jim. I had people asking me about that, just kind of like not strangers, but, people I'm interacting with say, hey, what's going on with Zillow?
Yeah, Zillow's gone through a lot of stuff. If you haven't caught it, it is kind of even interesting to the layman, but we're going to try to make sure that we go from the macro to the micro and also talk about like how it affects your decisions down here. Because I just had a recent conversation with one of our customers while they were selling the house, and they were talking about those what I call iBuyer programs, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, the whole iBuyer program phenomenon. And what happened to Zillow is exactly what I predicted when they got into the market to do this iBuy program. It wasn't hard to figure out that what happened to Zillow was going to happen to them. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And let me see here. I'm sorry. Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that there's a buzzing. Do you know who it might be? And can we hear Jimmy on the radio? The buzzing?
You hear that, Jimmy?
I don't hear any buzzing, no.
Okay, good. Okay, so at Facebook, YouTube, I promise you that we're not those Cuban people with that sound that makes your brain go crazy. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
The embassy sound.
It's constant though. Hit your mute, Jim. And I know this is not the best for radio, but
did you hear it after I shut it off?
Yeah, it's on your end, but
you're
our originator, so it's not like we can do.
Okay, I'm gonna put it down lower, see if it makes a difference. Hold on here. Is that a little better or no?
Not really, no.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I have to.
If they don't hear it on the radio, that's the most important part.
Yeah.
If we hear it, who cares?
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
As long as nobody on Facebook or YouTube or on the app tuning in, if you don't hear it, then we're happy. And sorry we had to deal with a little bit of that background business. Hey, join us at 877-927-6969. Always remember, access to the entire team at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. What were you going to say, Mike?
I thought I heard it go away when Jimmy chimed in there. Timothy, so I'm not sure it's Jim.
Yeah, I think it's probably somewhere in the connection, in the loop, but as long as it's not on the radio, then I'm happy.
Yeah,
me too.
Let's get into a little bit of the shout outs, and I have one unusual shout out today, but before we get into that, I just want to say congratulations to Donna. Donna came to us several months ago, needed to sell a home right around the corner from Mike, and it took us several months to get the house ready to be sold because Donna had some legal things she needed to do to take control of the property. And then we had to give her some very serious advice on how to stage the property to maximize the money that she wanted on the house. So the first thing we did is we got her over to Krasker Law, right? Law office of Polly Krasker, and got the legal things that she needed to do done. That took about a month and a half to get all that taken care of. And then after that, then it was a house that she was selling that was owned by a relative. And the relative was elderly. And the house was a very nice house, but it was original everything. And it was in the late 1990s. And the house was very tired looking. And the house had been lived in a long time. And there was a lot of personal items in there. And if we were to just sell the house as it was, without doing anything, I felt like people were going to come in and felt like it was a distressed sale. And even though we're in a tight market, offer less than what we were hoping for. And then we would have to try to pull the people up to the price that we were hoping for. So I explained to Donna, I think it's really important that you do X, Y, Z to the house. It wasn't so much spending money, although she did spend a little bit to get a like one of those got junk removal storage center, storage companies to come over and take a lot of the stuff that wasn't needed to declutter the house. And then they brought in a cleaning crew to come in and really scrub clean everything in the house just to make it clean. Now, this house, the bathrooms were original, the flooring was original, the appliances were old. In fact, the refrigerator, even the bottom of the refrigerator was rusted. You know how sometimes you see that rust on the finish of the refrigerator? Right. It was like that. But the bones of the house were really great. And let me tell you, whoever lived there, whoever Donna's relative lived there, she loved gardening. So the outside of the house was so cool. because there was all this really great landscaping, and because they had lived there for so long, all the stuff they planted was very mature. So there were a lot of mature shade trees, and there were all different types of trees there, fruit trees and pine trees and oak trees and orchid trees and bamboo. And I love bamboo because you can hear it in the wind. You can hear that rattling in the wind with the bamboo knocking against each other. It's almost like having your real life wind chimes without killing anything, right?
Totally.
So it was a really cool house. So it took a lot of effort for Donna, to get all that stuff done. She was very overwhelmed because she has a busy life herself, and then she was trying to deal with this issue for a relative. So we put it on the market last week, and we announced that it was going on the market last week on the last week's show. We put the house on the market late Thursday night, because Nancy wasn't here last week. So it took me forever to put the listing up, but we put it out late Thursday night. And by Monday, we had 38 showings and we had 14 offers. Donna was so happy. And I didn't want 14 offers, believe me. 14 offers is just an ego thing for the realtor. Okay. You only need you only need one good offer, right? But it's always nice to have at least two. I like 2 to 4 is my favorite, because that way you can very quickly find out who's the most qualified, and usually you can pull people up if you have multiple offers to their, what I call their maximum allowable offer, and you find out who out of that group of 4 is willing to give the most that we want, and then have the best financing.
Yeah.
And that's who you pick. But we had 14. Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, in my brain when you first said that, I'm like, he that's not true. Like, Jim revels that call from the buyer's agents where they're trying to feel him out to get information, and he's like, listen, I got 14 offers on the table. Like, give me your highest and best. But I'm thinking Jim could have that very same conversation with 2 offers on the table. Right? Be like, listen, absolutely. I got 2 offers on the table. Come with your highest and best.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when you have 14 offers, here's the problem, okay? Each package is about 30 pages. So you have 14 offers. What does that come out to? So that's 420 pages of stuff you got to read. 420. So, Mike, I know you read it, but I haven't. What's that Russian novel that's long as hell? What's that one? War and Peace or something? Or
well, there's War and Peace, but Tolstoy is not that difficult reading. If you're looking for, you're looking at Crime and Punishment, probably.
Is the big one the really big one?
Yeah. He's much more difficult read. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the thickness of the book. Like, there's one that's just like an epic, and that's what
Especially if you read it in Russian.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So anyway, I wanted to congratulate Donna. We got her into a really great contract. It was very tough because the offers were so strong, to be honest with you. And the reason why they were strong was because Donna did that upfront work to make that happen. Now, she didn't make that happen, and she didn't declutter the house, and she didn't just clean it. Just cleaning it makes a huge difference, guys. Huge. She didn't paint the house, right? The flooring was dated. She left, she took stuff off the walls, and you can see that, it needed a paint job. But we were aggressive on the pricing based on the repairs in order to get the multiple offers we needed. And we ended up getting 5% over the list price, right? With a guarantee that the buyer is going to pay a certain amount over the appraised value if the house doesn't appraise at the number that we took. So that's still happening in this market, okay? And
it goes to show, Jimmy, imagine you're a new real estate agent who's entered this field in 2020, 2021. Like, the art of staging it's going to be a lost art on some of those, because you just haven't had to, right? I mean, there's just so many buyers out there, it almost didn't matter, but sometimes it really, really matters.
It mattered a lot because, in my opinion, she could have gotten, now listen to this, guys, $40,000 to $50,000 less. Whoa. Without doing what I asked her to do. Now, it took her It took her a month and a half of aggravation of trying to get it all ready because she's a busy person and she has a lot of obligations. And then this was like the extra thing she had to do, right? Like deal with this whole house that somebody had been living there for 30 years and dealing with all this stuff, right? And getting it ready of a house that she never lived in, right? So it was very, very difficult for her. But by doing the stuff we did, I'm very confident that she got at least $30,000 more than if she did nothing. But I really think that it's closer to 40 to 50. So spending maybe, I don't know what it was, maybe $1,500 for the cleaning and moving all the stuff out of the house.
Ooh, man, that is good return on investment.
$30,000 to $50,000. So look.
Well, don't forget the time invested. Some of us, might turn down $30,000 for a month. Right?
Okay.
Some of
raise
us.
your hand. Yeah, raise your hand if you're.
No.
Johnny's like, no, I'm good.
Johnny's raising his hand. Not me. I got obligations. But the thing is that I really appreciate Donna for trusting us. She actually came from a referral from Tiffany, who works with Mike. And she didn't know anything about our radio show. She had no idea who we were. She was just basing the word on Tiffany's advice. And so for her trusting me to do all the stuff that we needed to do, that's what made the great relationship. She's so happy right now. We're not done because we haven't got the appraisal yet, so I'm not cracking open the champagne. But we also know that we have 4 very strong buyers that are equal to, or maybe even a tiny bit better than the offer we have if this deal falls apart. So Donna's in very good position right now.
That is fantastic.
The other thing is Donna was very hyper for the last several months of getting the house on the market because she is a believer that the market is going to be changing and she wanted to maximize the money she could make. So she wanted to sell the house now.
Sure.
Right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that market and that, her opinion on that in just a little bit. But thank you, Donna. And we just want to say this is another success story from the Florida Home Pros. And we want to be your realtor. If you're thinking about selling or buying a house, the Florida Home Pros and my team want to be your realtor. We would like to interview for the job, show you what we can do. We have proven statistics when we sit down with people and we actually show them the statistics. The stuff we say right now on the show, if I'm sitting in your dining room and I open up my computer, when we go through the properties, you're going to mention to me, oh, that's the property you talked about last week. And then you're going to see it live on the MLS that what I'm telling you right now is no bunk. It's the real deal.
Yeah, this should be a process you're doing anyway, Jim, regardless, right? You should be saying, hey, show me your stats. What's your experience? What's your plan? And ask questions. Like the more questions, the better, at least from your perspective, right?
Yes, absolutely. Mike, I'm sorry. You wanted to say something?
One thing tickled my brain there. You were mentioning the property, and it's in my neck of the woods, and the landscaping, like the outside. And I find a lot of the new builders around here. I'll see them clearing lots, Jim, and they'll leave 5, 6 of the tall. What are the pines out here? The
Australian. Oh, not Australian. I don't know if it's the Australian pines because I don't know if that's an invasive species.
Yeah, the tall pines are beautiful. But it's weird that they're doing that. Like I'm really thankful the previous owners on my home, they left they did a good job leaving a lot of the, I think, local, right, the fauna, what the flora and fauna, Johnny, is what I'm looking for on the thing. But the new lots that I see them, they're really clearing out a lot of stuff. So it takes some time to develop that look, right?
I totally agree with you. That's one of the downsides when people go look as new construction as an option, Mike. It's one of the things some of the customers that we deal with don't like about the new construction. It's awesome that you have the brand new house, so you have the low insurance, extremely super low insurance rate on the house. Yeah. All of that's awesome. But the people that really like the lot, like the land itself is as important as the house. Sometimes they get turned off because they're like, I'm going to have to live here 15 years before, the stuff that I like is grown to the size that I want it.
You got the brand new house sat in the center of an acre and a quarter, acre and a third, and then it's just grass, right? With a couple trees, right?
Yeah.
Holy cow! I got to pay my landscaper a lot of money just to cut the grass.
I know, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. Wanted to do another shout out. I have two more. I wanted to do a shout out to John again, Johnny. By the way, John says to say hello, John G. Okay, we just sold his house.
Nice.
Okay. John was a really great customer, and I went over there just a couple days ago to pick up the lockbox on the house I sold for him. And I think I sold this house like 10 days ago, so I was very late going over there. I'm glad the lockbox was still there. But luckily, John happened to be at the property, even though he doesn't own it anymore. He was outside, so I got to talk to him for a little while. And let me, Mike's, hopefully, Mike, John has given you a call already, because they might be qualified for a little refi because they owe so little on the house that they own now. But their interest rate's super high, so that might be something they want to do. But let me tell you, when I went over there and saw him unexpectedly when I was getting the lockbox, he was such a happy guy. And when we first met with him, he wasn't sure if he wanted to sell the house or not. Remember, Johnny? So he fell into his neighbor's house and ended up buying the neighbor's house at a pretty good deal. And deservedly so, because he really helped out that neighbor throughout his whole life. He had passed away. But he was a vet. And John really took to that, so he really helped out the guy, cut his lawn, took care of stuff because the guy was elderly. And then he owned the property, so then he had to decide, what am I going to do with this property? Well, it was a 1950s house that never had air conditioning or heating in it, and everything was 1950s other than the roof. Everything in the house was 1950s. And he was thinking, I can fix it up and then maybe have my daughter move into it, or I could fix it up and sell it, or I could fix it up and rent it out, or I could just sell it as it is, or should I fix it up and then sell it? The market's so crazy, what should I do? So we sat there and we just crunched all the numbers and all the different scenarios over a couple of visits. I think I met John twice at least before we actually took the listing. And we went through all the scenarios, and John was very methodical about it. He really wanted to think about what his options were and everything. And then he decided in the long run, the bottom line is I showed him what it was going to take to fix up the house, and then what he could sell it for after it was fixed up versus just selling it as is, and just say, I don't want to touch it. You take it as it is. And the difference in the profit was not that much. But if he fixed it up, he'd have all this money invested into the house. And usually, if you haven't ever flipped a house before, you're never going to stay on budget. Even professional flippers barely stay on budget, right? So then you have to deal with all the contractors, make sure that you get to the budget you want. And if the market shifts or something, you wish you never did the renovation. You'd be better off just selling it. We also looked at it as a rental property. And we figured out it was going to take something like 10 years for him to make the money that he can make right now, if the rental property did well for 10 years perfectly.
No issues. Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe he could make the same amount of money right now. So he thought about it. We went ahead and put it on the market. We sold it in 6 hours. We sold it for more than what we were asking for. And he got a big fat paycheck at closing. And I wasn't able to be there because I had a personal issue dealing with that day. And I got to see him. Over there, and it was so awesome. He was so happy. And I said, hey, have they started the construction over there yet? The new bar? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, what a mess. And I could see that he was looking at it like, I'm glad I don't have to do that. So anyway, congratulations to John.
Yeah, John, nice.
And another reason to give us a call, because we want to be your realtor. The Florida Pros want to be your realtor. And the thing is that we sit down and give you the consultation and we figure out everything. And John, we didn't pressure John. We let him make a decision on his time frame. We were patient. We met with them multiple times to make sure that they were making the decision they wanted to make. And another success story. So thanks so much for trusting us, John. And when I left, he said, hey, Jim, if I'm ever going to sell my house, I'm giving you a call.
So my man. Awesome. Yeah, no, that is fantastic. And that's a great example, Jim. It really, truly is. I think of if you're even thinking about it and you're like, I just don't know the numbers. I don't know how things work out. Have the consultation. Go to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Whether it's a property you just kind of fell in your lap, or if it's something you've been dealing with for a long time and you're like, gosh, I don't know how long I can keep doing this. If you have questions or concerns about how your future looks with it, reach out to the pros. The pros. You got a one-stop real estate shop at floridatalkrealestate.com. Get a consultation. Get an understanding. Whether that's talking with Mike Rauch and or Jim DePola, maybe Ross Camaronets gets involved. Sometimes insurance very much matters for the future of a home, whether you buy it or etc. Talk to the pros. floridatalkrealestate.com. Michael?
I was just going to point out, I feel like I'm giving Jimmy so much props this morning, but think about the length of time that he was, in conversations with that particular client, right? We're talking about a long period of time, and it's just not that common, right? I've worked with a lot of real estate agents. There's just there's a difference, and I feel like I try to have the same approach, but I'm much worse at it than you guys are. Just keeping in touch with people, and eventually, if you're doing the right thing and you're operating the right way, that will turn into something that turns into something, right? And it's a distinction. It's not everybody that can do that, and so props on that, Jim.
Oh, big props.
Thank you, Mike. That was awesome. And speaking of that, about communication, guess what? Johnny, I don't even know if I told you, but on January 1st, we're going to start a monthly magazine.
Oh,
right? It's
nice.
going to be an electronic. At first, it's going to be an electronic magazine because I think it's more powerful, and we can give you more information in the electronic magazine. So every month, we're going to bring out this magazine. It's going to be talking a little bit about the market. We're going to talk about small business owners, any small business owners that would like to be involved in this, not even related to real estate. You own a restaurant, a dry cleaning business, a plumbing business, anything, right?
Well, let's not discriminate. Any big business owners you want to be involved in this?
Big business owners.
Yeah. I feel like when they do the competition for who's going to be on the cover, Ross is going to win every month.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we should do a calendar with Hot Ross. Wouldn't that be funny? A monthly calendar with Hot Ross.
Sure, he'd be absolutely.
Maybe we could just take his head and put it on bodies and make it a running joke on our magazine.
Or just use his body and put different.
Or
names
the opposite. We picked up Ross's body. That's a good idea, Johnny.
Jim, are the kids any good at Photoshop?
I don't know. We're going to find out, I guess. We're going to find out soon. But we're going to be doing a monthly magazine. We're going to have stuff like, once in a while. And I'm not going to be pulling these off the internet. If we put it on, it's going to be something that somebody actually did. But recipes, we're going to be offering discounts for local businesses and things like that, right? So Mike wanted to do his famous guacamole.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that, in his family, there's a big debate about whether Mike's guacamole is better or somebody else's guacamole is better.
I'm a bit of a guac aficionado. I'd like to get involved in this debate.
Maybe we should have a guac off.
Nice.
Instead of a chili cook off, a guac off.
Guaca.
We could do both.
So if you have recipes, and if you have recipes that you would like to share with people, let us know. And by the way, join our Facebook. We have a Facebook group at the Florida Talk Real Estate. It's a private group. We don't have many people in there right now, but sign up for that because everybody from that is automatically going to be getting the monthly magazine. But if you want the monthly magazine too, we just send it to you either by text or email, your choice. You're going to pick, and it's going to be awesome. And the photos and the videos, it's even going to have clickable links on videos and things to do and stuff like that. It'll be once a month. If you're interested in that, creates a better community of all the fans from ZZR and the Florida Home Pros and Florida Talk Real Estate, the one-stop real estate shop team. So just put it all together and let us know. Either let us know on Facebook, send us an email, just go to floridatalkrealestate.com, send out an email. You can click on the contact form. You can call the 888 number, try to get it. You'll have some savings in there too. And people on that list that have signed up, they're going to get a special discount from at least the Florida Home Pros on the realty side if you try to do stuff with us, because you're going to be one of us when you're one of us. Hey, let's take a break real quick. On the flip side, we're going to talk one more shout out. It's with Jarrett Perry, and it is not a normal shout out, so I'm kind of excited about that. And then we're going to roll right into what is what is an appraisal contingency? Isn't that the same thing as a financing contingency? And we're going to talk about that.
All right. If you want to be a part of the conversation, just pick up your phone and dial 877-927-6969. It is a toll-free number. Jimothy will line you up. We'll get you going, get your questions, comments, concerns handled, whether it be conversation we're having, that'd be great. Or if you have a question that's really not tied into what we're discussing, that's okay too. Don't be afraid. The water's beautiful on this Saturday morning. Great to have you with us. Plenty of time remaining on a Saturday. We're back 1, 2, 3, count them up, 4 minutes from now. It is Florida Talk Real Estate. And remember, it's a .com, your one-stop real estate shop, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Back 4 minutes from now. Great to have you with us every Saturday. Florida Talk Real Estate, right here on Real Radio.
Got something to say?
I got something to say.
Text us at 47142. Start your message with Real Radio. Standard data and message rates apply, and don't text while driving.
This is Chris Collinsworth. Here's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network, presented by DraftKings.
It'll be another waiting game for the Heat in regards to Kyle Lowry's status, as the point guard is still questionable for today's game. With the recent injury to goalie Sam Bennett, the Florida Panthers recalled goaltender Christopher Gibson from their AHL affiliate. And the quarterback situation for Florida against South Carolina is up in the air. The team is unsure if Anthony Richardson will be able to return. I'm Adam Crowley.
Download the DraftKings app and use code SPORTS to get a free shot at millions of dollars up for grabs this week with your first deposit.
Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. That's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because FloridaTalkRealEstate.com has you covered. That's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Yeah, that is your toll-free number. And guess what? It will work until 11. It'll work past. If you're hanging out with the locker room this afternoon, you can dial that number, be a part of the locker room with Greek and Jimothy and Joe. But it is toll-free for the next hour and a half of your 2 hours of infotainment every Saturday here on Real Radio. It's Florida Talk Real Estate. Please do not hesitate to pick up your phone and dial if you want to be a part of our conversation. If you have another question, a concern, something you're dealing with, we'll get that answer for you. If not, we'll attain it and get it to you very shortly thereafter. I'm your boy, Johnny C. Always remember, we can have... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 5 entry points for the show every Saturday. On the radio, you're at 92.1 in the Palm Beaches, 101.7 for the Treasure Coast, Space Coast. If you have your free download, your iHeartRadio app, that makes us worldwide. That is a beautiful thing. Free download, by the way. And you can find us on Facebook, Florida Talk Real Estate on Facebook. Thanks for everybody that tunes in with us on a Saturday. On YouTube as well, Florida Talk Real Estate LLC, where there's a ton of information to be had. And we go live every Saturday on YouTube. Thank you very much for tuning in there. That's your entry points. You can be a part of the show. I give you the website. It's floridatalkrealestate.com. Your access to the entire team, your one-stop real estate shop. I'm your boy, Johnny C. Speaking of the team, Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm, is a very valuable member of the team, and he sits here with us on a Saturday. Hello, Michael.
Good morning, sir. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you hanging there on the comeback in. I was busy looking at what I think is probably the best Halloween costume duo that I've seen this year. Somebody texted an image to me that was pretty freaking awesome.
Very nice.
And don't forget, you can always call Jim DePola anytime on his cell phone. It's 954.
You break it up?
What are you doing that for?
Johnny was talking about how to get in contact with us. How to
true.
5 entry points.
There's another one right there. Yeah.
Sure.
Jim's like, hold up. That's not the number we give out.
Wait a second. Why?
It's a 561 first.
Now I'm wondering about the photo that you got of the super Hollywood couple or Halloween couple.
Not a couple, just the costume. Well, check your phone, Jim.
You got your phone?
Yeah, what are you talking about? He's texted me?
You got a phone? No?
Oh, you texted me. Oh, that is so cool. I saw that already, but that's so cool.
I had a feeling you did. Yeah, it wasn't,
yes, I saw
thought
it.
I shared that with you already.
It was pretty amazing. Remember I asked you, where'd you get the blue jacket?
Oh, that's right. We're being very cryptic right now. I was sharing pictures from Halloween.
Yeah.
My little girl as Harley Quinn, or Haley Quinn, as we like to call her.
Nice.
And Daddy went full on Joker.
I know, right?
Joker C.
Hey,
wait, who's talking?
Want to do a shout out. I want to just change gears here real quick. Go, Mike.
You didn't introduce yet. Nobody knows who you
are.
Want
to do a shout out for...
Hold on, Jimmy. Hold on a second. Hold on. That's Jim DePola, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pointing up if you're on Facebook. If you're listening, that's the sweet melodious tones of Jimmy D. He runs a top producing Keller Williams team. Keller Williams Reserve Palm Beach. That team, it's the Florida Home Pros. Hello, Jim DePola.
Thank you, John. Sorry about that. Sorry. Hey, I want to do a shout out to Jarrett's newest basketball recruit for the NBA. His name is Sam Cunliffe. Sam is in the G League right now, and Jared and I are flying out this weekend to go look at this very important game that he's going to be in, and it looks like this is a game that's going to make his NBA career happen, and we're very, very excited for him. Jared's been working behind the scenes with Sam for over 2 years to try to get him to the NBA.
And that's Sam with PPF, with Player Performance First.
Player Performance First. And Sam was a top college basketball player with Arizona State and a couple other colleges during his college career. But because of COVID and some other things, he has had a very hard struggle to try to break through from the college ranks into the NBA. But we think it's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks, and we're flying out for this very important game. Right now, Sam has just been killing it, and so impressive of what he's doing. And he's now working out with the NBA champions, current NBA champions, the Milwaukee Bucks. So we're really, really excited. We're flying out to Oshkosh, Wisconsin this weekend.
Awesome.
Let me tell you something. Don't go to Oshkosh, Wisconsin if you don't have to. I've never been there. I cannot get a rental car to save my butt. So we decided we're flying into the General Mitchell International Airport in Milwaukee, and all the rental car places in the airport close at 10 o'clock. We're coming in at 9:55 p.m. if everything lands on time. So we don't get a car. You can't book it in advance and pay for advance and sign up and just pick up the keys in the parking lot. There's none of that. Then I started calling all the rental cars outside the airport, trying to find a 24-hour rental car place. Impossible. And the airport is 90 minutes away from where Sam's going to be playing. So I don't know what we're going to do. So
Uber.
Yeah, it's like from here to Miami, 90 minutes. Jim, yeah. I just looked up Oshkosh on the map. Is it irony? Is funny enough? It's right next to Lake Winnebago. Maybe you need to look for a Winnebago rental.
I actually thought of renting a Hertz. I was actually thinking of renting a U-Haul or something. Driving across, because I think that way. That's the way I
wonder if it has any connection with the car from, right? The Winnebago. Am I remembering wrong? That's a car, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe you'll get lucky. Maybe you'll run into John Candy's, rest in peace, polka group, and they got to get back to Wisconsin. They can run you guys up there. Yeah.
Planes, trains, automobiles. So no, not that one.
No, that is a Christmas movie. Take another guess.
Oh, I don't know that one.
I should know this.
Home Alone. Home Alone.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't get the poker reference on that.
Well, remember, mom's got to come back from Paris, and she can't get all the flights. It's just panic, and she ends up on the U-Haul with John Candy's polka band.
Oh, polka band. I thought you said poker.
Oh, polka
I can't
band.
get it now.
Remember? Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
You know, Johnny, that is such an obscure reference. I didn't make the connection until you spelled it out, and I'm like, oh my God, that was part of that movie. Yeah, John Candy was in that. Yep. And I remember he was like describing some of the hits that they had in the band.
He's like, come on, polka.
Right.
That's funny, because I was recently I've been just thinking about Second City Television for some reason. I was thinking about watching some of the old shows. I used to love that show at Second City Television. When John Candy was on there and everything, it was pretty cool. Hey, so anyway, I'm really excited about Sam. The other thing you need to know is Sam, this guy is a real go-getter, Sam Cunliffe. He also has created an app to increase your, what do you call that when you jump
vertical? Your vertical leap.
Yeah, your vertical jump. Thank you. I'm a real pro guy, real sports guy here. But he has an app to increase your vertical leap, and he wants to teach people, up and coming people that have dreams of getting to the highest level in their sports field. And he was actually smart enough when he created this exercise routine that he actually videotaped his improvement over time on his vertical leap through this app. And then Jarrett now is helping him create the app right now, and it's going to be out there. And let me tell you, when this kid breaks through the NBA ranks, that app is probably going to go pretty big itself. So congratulations to Sam and Jarrett. And just shows you how loyal Jared is to people and what a great guy he is when he's working.
I could use that. I'm wondering if there's like an age, an ideal age where you're working on your vertical. I might have passed that point.
Yeah, I think I'm past there too.
The sell-by date is come and gone.
I think it depends. I think it's based on your waistline, Mike. If your waistline's too big, then you can't
just improve by going on a diet. That's it. That's all they got to do.
Well, I think that's the I think there's multiple apps you can do the upgrade. The first one is lose some weight.
Exactly.
Right.
Hey, let's get into this whole so Mike, here's the thing that happened recently, okay? A person makes an offer on our house. They're going to be selling a house in order to buy our house. That part was okay, we thought, okay? But then, so they turned in the offer, and the agent was like she's brand new, this agent, right? So when she turned in the offer, like the next day, she turned in an addendum. So the deal was she was doing conventional financing. It was contingent on the sale of her house, but that when the house sold, she was going to put basically 50% down. So she was financing 50% of the purchase. And then the day after she turned in the contract, she turned in an appraisal contingency. So I called her back and I said, let me ask you a question. Why did you put in the appraisal contingency? And she says, I already talked to the mortgage broker. They're going to require us that we do an appraisal. Okay. And I said, well, because sometimes, and we'll talk about this too, Mike, sometimes mortgage companies don't require an appraisal. The lender doesn't require appraisal if you put down a huge amount down, right? So she goes, oh, well, we're going to have to do an appraisal because the mortgage company is going to, is going to demand it. And I said, okay, but why are you putting an appraisal contingency addendum in there? And she had no idea what I was talking about. So this can be very confusing to people, even agents, okay, that aren't highly trained, about the difference between a financing contingency and an appraisal contingency, and are they the same things? And when do buyers feel like they need to have this contingency, the appraisal contingency? And what should sellers think about that process too from the seller side? So, Mike, when you turn in an offer, let's say it's conventional financing, 20% down, right? And you don't write anything else on the as-is contract other than I'm buying the house with 20% conventional financing, and and I want the financing to be at prevailing rates because that's what's in the contract, okay? From the mortgage perspective, from realtor perspective, what that means is the person's buying the house. In an as-is contract, they have an inspection period, and if the inspection goes okay, they do an appraisal. If the appraisal goes okay, then the only other out they have, assuming there's no HOA or condos or anything like that, as long as the title's clear, they still have one more out, which is the financing contingency, because in the as-is contract it says, hey, I'm buying this house, I'm giving you this price, here are the terms. One of the terms is I got to get financing. And if I can't get financing, I want my escrow deposit back. And then also in the contract it says how long the buyer has to get that financing, right? So is that the same thing as an appraisal contingency?
It's not the same thing, Jim, but there's kind of an inherent appraisal contingency within the financing contingency, which means the home has to be basically the value, the loan that you're applying for is a specific loan to value, right? You're getting a loan at a percentage of the value of the home. So in your scenario, it's 80%, right? I want to get 80% of the value of the home as my financing. And so when it doesn't appraise for when the LTV, then loan to value, when the value comes in lower than what you agreed to as the purchase price, then there's potentially a problem there, right? Because your 80% chunk of that gets smaller, right? And so
let's use the easy math. Let's use easy math, okay?
100,000.
Yeah, $100,000, right?
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
then when it appraises, yeah, so you're applying for a loan at $80,000, right? Which is 80% of that $100,000 value. The value in our LTV calculation, a loan to value, is the lower of or the lesser of either the purchase price that you've agreed to buy it at or the appraised value. So whichever one of those is lower.
So if the house appraises at $90,000 instead of $100,000, instead of putting $20,000 down, you're only putting down 18, right?
Exactly, and you can only get 80% of that 90,000. Right.
So you're basically 8,000 in this case.
A $78,000 loan, or what's the math on that?
98.
Oh, geez.
Hold on, I'll figure it out.
I thought we were using easy numbers here, Johnny.
I know,
you got it?
right?
Yeah, it's like 72,000.
Right? 18,000 off of 90. Yeah, so
68.
yes,
78.
70. I was going a little lower.
72. 72,000.
72,000.
You were trying to get an $80,000 loan, and now you can only get a $72,000 loan, right?
So now we have an $8,000 gap.
Especially if you're keeping the purchase price at $100,000, right? Like that's
Right.
a negotiation point. But your loan amount, you were trying to get 80,000 on a $100,000 purchase. Now you can only get 72,000. And if you keep your purchase price at 100,000, that's an additional $8,000 that you have to come to the table with. And if you don't have it, guess what? You can't get approved for your financing. So that gets back to there's an inherent kind of built-in appraisal contingency in that the value has to be supported, right, within that financing contingency. Maybe we should step back, Jim. The contingency is essentially the buyer will perform their part of the contract contingent upon these certain milestones, right? And if they can't, you mentioned the inspection contingency, right? So the buyer has the right to inspect the home. If they don't like what they find in the inspection, they can back out gracefully, meaning they're going to get whatever deposit they put in. They can back out and not have any risk of the seller saying, wait a second, I want that money, right? You put skin in the game, I want that, right? The other one you mentioned was you mentioned appraisal and finance, but the two ones are basically inspection, financing, right? You have a certain amount of days to do those things, and if you can't get it done or you're not happy, you can back out gracefully. So you don't necessarily need a separate appraisal contingency, but, and here's where Paul Krasker would come in here and say, but what happens if they do have that extra $8,000 in the bank? So you've got enough money to make up the gap. Yes, you're applying for 80% loan to value, but you have enough money now to make up that gap. Can your loan essentially not be approved even though you got enough money to do it? And so there's a little bit of, I would say, gray area there.
Yeah, I would call that the gray area. So that's a very important concept, getting back to the 50% down. That's a great segue to get to the 50% down. So if somebody's putting 50% down on a conventional loan, and let's go through the same scenario as the 100,000, right? So they want $100,000. They offer $100,000.
Let's do this one, Jim, at $1 million.
The person's buying the house. Well, but then it's hard to get financing.
They're doing a $500,000 loan. We do that all day.
So, okay, let's do $1 million. So they're putting $500,000 down on $1 million. No,
so it's gonna be like my next transaction.
Let's just keep it apples to apples. If you have 100, so they offer you $100,000 deal, right? They offer you $100,000 for the house that you want, but they're saying, hey, we're going to put 50% down on the financing contingency, right? So let's say they don't put an appraisal contingency in there. Okay, they just have the financing contingency. So then the house only appraises at 90, which means now they only have to put 18,000. They only have to put down 40,000. Right. Instead of the 50.
Or if they're doing the loan at 50, then it's 45,000, right? If they're keeping their max loan at 50% of the value.
Right. So they're at 45,000. So in order to make up the difference, they have to pull $5,000 out of their pocket. Now the thing is, they're already putting 50% down. So if they added the 5,000 out of their pocket, and that now they're only putting, let's say, $45,000 down instead of $50,000 down on the loan, and then they pull the other $5,000 to give to the seller to make it up. Probably the person could afford the house.
Yes.
Because they're putting such a huge down payment down. So they could afford the house anyway. They're just not going to put 50% down. They're going to put 45% down.
Exactly. So they're basically, they've applied for a loan initially at 50% of the value. And when it appraises low, so instead of getting a loan, they could get the exact same loan, that exact same $50,000 loan. It just happens to be 40%, or I'm sorry, 55% of the value of the home, or 60% of the value of the home. So in that case, it's the same loan. They're still qualified for the 50,000. They're still going to get the 50,000. It's just their LTV changes, right? They're blown as a percentage of the value of the home. So that one, yeah, I mean, it's in that case.
Now, if you so in that case, the seller could argue, hey, you could afford the loan anyway. You only had a financing contingency. You could still get financing. Yeah. You're just not putting 50% down. So I want you to close anyway. They could have that argument, right?
Yeah, and because in that case, you're not having to adjust anything, right? the difference between 50 and 55% loan to value, they're still approved for that same loan, right? Like, and the amount of cash they have to bring in hasn't changed that much, right? It's just their
that they're
LTV has
financing an
shrunk,
extra
right?
5%, right? They're just financing an extra 5%.
So like at that 50% LTV or some big number like that, you basically the appraisal could come at low, and there's really no impact specifically other than the buyers feel like they're overpaying for the property, right? It's when you get those thresholds, like the 20% is a good example, Jim. Well, what happens if they're approved for a certain payment, right, which is a specific loan amount, and if that changes as a result of a low appraisal, say they have to go to 85 loan to value instead of 80 or something like that, well, then you introduce mortgage insurance into the picture, and then that payment can change to a point where they no longer qualify. Forget about the cash; they no longer qualify based on the resulting payment, right? If you went from an 80% to a 95%, let's say you had a really, really low loan to value, but they still needed to get that full loan amount, they may no longer qualify for the payment. And so that's another way where it can,
and that's something that the sellers don't really get a lot of times. So what they think is, there's two big misconceptions by the sellers when it comes to this stuff. Number one, well, I don't care if the house appraised or not. I want them to give me the amount of money that I've contracted at. I want my purchase price that we agreed to. So if it doesn't appraise, they're just going to have to make up the difference. Well, sometimes they can't, because either the payment gets too big and they can't afford the loan anymore, right, or they could if they pull the extra money out of their pocket, they don't have enough what's called cash reserves in the bank. And then that's another regulation that could disqualify them from the loan. Those are usually the two biggest things. Either the payment becomes too big or the cash reserves aren't there. They don't have enough money to meet the cash reserves and make up the difference. And the sellers don't get that.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of where you really need sharp professionals in your corner. Number one, negotiating to get into contract in the first place, Jim. Like, if you and I are working with clients and we know, they're getting a 80 loan to value, right? So they're putting a 20% down payment, but they got some cash in the back that if it appraises low, and Jim's going to have a good sense of whether something is going to appraise at value or maybe it's going to come in low, you can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Listing Agent, go ahead and accept our offer. I know we're kind of reaching on the value, but my clients, at least, I'm not saying they're going to, but at least have some ability to withstand a low appraisal within certain margins, right? And so you can use that as a tool when you're making an offer to kind of separate yourself from the other offers on the table.
Which is one of the things that we've been doing a lot lately. We've been finding buyers when we have multiple offers. We've tried to find the buyer that's willing to pay above appraised value up front before we even find out the appraisal. So before we get the appraisal. So like in that example of the $100,000 home only appraising for 90, if we have multiple offers, we might take a buyer that says, look, I'm going to pay you $100,000 for the house, but if the house doesn't appraise, I'm going to pay $10,000 above appraised value, but not more than the $100,000 we contracted for. So if the house appraises at 90, my seller's still getting 100. If the house appraises at 85, then the buyer is going to give an extra 10. My seller's going to get 95,000. But at least the seller that way is protected up front, that they're going to be getting at least if they don't get their exact purchase price that they agreed to, they know they're going to get above the appraised value, right? So that gives them a little bit of a relief of worrying about the appraisal. But then now let's get into the appraisal contingency part.
Yeah. Yep.
So in this example of 50% down on $100,000, and then they put in an appraisal contingency. What that means to the seller is, if this house comes in at 90,000 and the contracted price was 100, and they were putting 50% down, but there was an appraisal contingency, it doesn't matter if they can finance it or not, because they have a contingency, the buyer, saying, hey, I'm going to give you $100,000, Jim, but if the house doesn't appraise, I want to be able to back out, whether I can finance this or not. I want to be able to back out of the contract for non-appraisal because I don't want to pay above appraised value.
Or a market value, right?
Right, above the market value. So the thing is that that's a very important concept. And the agent that filled out the addendum thought she had to fill that out because the mortgage company told her that there was going to be an appraisal. So she just automatically put together an appraisal contingency. And you know what? Sometimes that's okay, because if that's what if the buyer's saying, hey, I don't want to pay above appraised value, even if I'm putting 50% down, I don't want to pay above appraised value, so I want an appraisal contingency. Well, then it should be written.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I was going to say, you'll see the appraisal contingency, Jim, a lot, maybe not a lot, but when there's on cash offers, right, where there's no financing, but they still want some sort of protection so they're not completely overpaying for a home. So that's a tool that can be used in place of a financing contingency. So listen, I'm a cash offer, but I'm going to inspect the home, and I'm also going to appraise the home, and I'm not agreeing to pay above market value or appraised value for the home.
And in this market, that might be a deal killer.
Of course, yeah.
So
yeah.
What's happened?
What's the golden contract, Jim? It's no contingencies. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to buy it. We're going to close in 5 days, right? You see that on
that was John G, the guy we talked about just at the last segment. John got in 6 hours, got above asking price offer, very healthy above asking price offer, 0-day inspection period, cash. The only thing John had to do to close the deal is prove that he had no liens on the property, that the title was clear. It took us like 20 days to do that, and boom, he sold it. 20 days after we put the house on the market, he was getting his big fat check. So
who was your buyer, Jim? Was it Zillow?
No, it wasn't. But we're going to be talking about that soon. But getting back to this appraisal contingency. So here's the thing you have to understand from the seller's perspective: that appraisal contingency, when you're given the huge down payment, people look to that huge down payment as or cash as like almost like, oh, we're closing. But if they have that appraisal from the seller's hat, I'm having my listing agent hat on now. When you have that and you have the appraisal contingency in there, that big fat deposit or cash doesn't really matter as much, because if they're saying I want the house to appraise, you could take any offer, because they all, all the finance people are going to have an appraisal most probably, right? So if you're going to go through it and say, hey, I'm only going to give you what the appraised value is, then that cash offer or that huge down payment offer isn't necessarily better than the other offers that might only be 5% down, or FHA with 3.5% down.
Yeah, and you might be able to sneak that by the unseasoned listing agent. Like, oh my gosh, I put $50,000 skin in the game, right? Like I'm a serious buyer. Here's my offer, and I'm putting $50,000 in the bank. And sellers can look at that and say, hey, that's okay. If we don't close, I get the $50,000, and it's not the case. Jim, I would always advise people, number one, there's no set amount that you have to put as skin in the game. The earnest money deposit, there's no set amount. You want something, right? I think Paul Krasker would tell you need something there as part of the contract to make it like a true contract, some sort of
consideration.
Consideration. But I would advise buyers, you want that number to be as small as possible, because it can be contentious, right? We have protections. We're never letting buyers get to the point where they're losing that money, or that's what we try to avoid. But as a buyer, you want that number to be as small as possible, but you got to get the deal signed, right? And as a seller, you want that number to be as big as possible, but also you got to get the deal signed. And so in a seller's market, it's much easier. In a buyer's market, it's much easier. But in a neutral market, right, there's some play there. There's a little bit of tactics at work there.
So just understand those contingencies when you're signing them. And when you're a seller, you have a different perspective on these than when you're the buyer. So just make sure that everybody's clear, that they understand, because sometimes buyers don't necessarily want to have the appraisal contingency. Many buyers, especially today's market, they want the deal to go through. They want the house to appraise.
Yep.
They're not looking for the house not to appraise. They're praying to God that the house appraises. because they don't want to go find another house that, they want this deal to work. So by adding that appraisal contingency in there, sometimes it's not needed because the buyer really wants the house and they're willing to work with the seller that if the house doesn't appraise, maybe they cut the baby, or they cut the middle in the difference, and they go halfway each way. And it's like, it's $10,000 below and they add $5,000 above the appraised value and do it. And they want the deal that bad and they're willing to do it. Mike?
Jim, I got a new tactic for you. This is on the fly thinking, out of the box thinking. I was, thinking when it appraises low, sometimes it appraises higher than the price that you have agreed to, right? And when that's the case, I always get that question like, oh my gosh, so the seller's going to know what it appraised for? And I say, no. If they ask me, I'm going to say, hey, we're good on value, right? We're fine. You don't want to tell them, hey, you've agreed to a price that's low. What if you do like the reverse of your flooring and your ceiling, and you say, listen, we're agreeing at this purchase price, but as the seller, I want a copy of your appraisal. And if the appraisal comes in higher than we agreed to, I want you to re-agree to that purchase price, to the higher purchase price.
Oh, that's kind of
How about that?
If that might be a tool in the toolbox. I'll just talk to Paul about that. That might be a tool in the toolbox.
You could like super lowball your listings, and you get an offer like that's above your ask, but you know it's going to appraise for $20,000, but you've kind of like locked them in, and then all of a sudden you've got this reverse appraisal contingency where they're having to come up. Which, you know what, it's fine. You can, if it appraises higher, you can still get that 80% loan to value, right? It doesn't really change that much on the buyer's side because you can just adjust your purchase price and go up. Interesting. All right.
As long as it's within the budget, I suppose, right?
Yeah,
as long as you qualify for the loan. Yes, of course.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to bring up, because I've been noticing recently, we've been dealing with a lot of realtors. And I hate to say this, but we've been dealing with a lot of real estate agents that really are super, super green. And me and Nancy, my office manager, just yesterday, we're talking about, can you believe what's happening right now? And don't you feel bad for the buyer? In this case, we were the listing agent. Don't you feel bad for the buyer that they have no idea what's going on with their agent and the problems that they're causing? And they're turning an offer on a house and it's not being reviewed the right way because the agent just doesn't know what they're doing.
Doesn't even know how to turn in an offer, right?
Jim, it almost makes you want to start a radio show and educate.
Right. And I'm not saying this, guys, that I'm full of myself. I'm not God's gift to real estate. I'm good at what I do. I'm not like, the best and the best of the best out there in the whole world or anything. But what I'm saying is that you have to at least have your foundation and be fully educated. I had another instance where an agent had a contingency that their house had to sell in order to buy the house that we have on the market. And then I found out that the deal had, after the inspection, they were in inspection, but hadn't done the appraisal, and the deal fell apart. And I found out by chance, they just casually mentioned, oh yeah, the deal fell apart, but we're in contract with another buyer right now, and they're going to be doing the inspection tomorrow, and I'm not worried about it because the last inspection was good, so I'm not worried about this. This is a good deal. And I said, well, what type of financing are they doing? And then they told me. And then I said, did you talk to the mortgage broker to find out like what they did for this person to qualify for a loan? And she goes, no, but I do know the agent. The agent's great. I know the agent. They're so good. And I go, that's not the way.
They had that pre-qualification.
Yeah, and they had the pre-qualification.
Which means that they were approved for their finance.
And I told the person, I go, that's not good. I go, you guys, you need to change your systems that the agent and the mortgage company. And I said, is it a direct lender or a mortgage brokering service? She didn't know. And then I said to her, what did they do to qualify for the loan? She said she didn't know. She didn't ask the realtor. She just knew the realtor was, quote, good. And I go, look, you don't know, and that realtor doesn't know, if that person had their car repossessed during COVID. You don't know if that happened or not. And I go, and you're not asking any questions. And if they had Mike, if they had a 770 credit score, but their car was repossessed 8 months ago, are they getting a loan? They might get a loan, right, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect 770 with the repossession.
Yeah, that's
repossessions don't happen unless you have multiple running lates, right, on your car
that's
payment.
True.
But I'll tell you what happens if when I pulled their score was 770, I did it 3 months ago, and it's taken them a while to get into the home, and then either I have to repull credit or we do what's called a credit refresh, and all of a sudden they got missed payments on a car payment. I mean, that's something that it's hard to predict, but that could kill the deal. I just Jim, it's like we are in this business, and as crass as it sounds, to close deals, right? Like you just, they have to close. If they don't close, you don't get paid. I don't get paid. The borrowers are out of money. The sellers are out of time and expense. And so it's just weird to me that a real estate agent isn't in a dialogue with the loan originator, right? Like, I like it. Jim, I'm to the point with your team where, like, any offer that's being made, I'm running numbers, like, on the house, that specific house, because guess what? We don't want to get into a contract that doesn't close. Like, that's the worst nightmare. So we're vigilant. We're like, all our effort is making sure that we're getting into a deal that can actually close. And on the listing side, you're doing as much as you can there, but holy cow, you can't talk to the buyers, right? You can't talk to you can kind of talk to the loan originator on the buy side, but you can't. You get a lot of information.
Well, I am. Like, what's happening in this, what I told the agent, I go, look, if we do end up accepting your offer, if my seller's interested in accepting this offer contingent on the sale of your property, I need to talk to that mortgage broker that's qualifying the new buyer for you. And the agent was very surprised. It's like, what? And I go, yeah, somebody's got to talk to that mortgage broker, because I can't have my seller go into contract with you and you don't know what's happening on your end. So I'm going to do it. And,
Jim,
and they were very surprised that I would even think that way.
We had an example just recently, Jim, where you talked to a listing or a buyer's agent, and you said, how's the financing? And you actually said, let me talk to the loan guy. You talked to the loan professional, and you said, hey, you know what? There's a couple. We got a lot of stuff. I want to make sure you guys are the strongest offer. What do you think about running the scenario? I just want a second opinion, right? Like, talk to Mike, and you're not doing that because you want to drive business to me. You want your deal to close, right? So you want to pick the very best qualified buyer. That's right. You ruffled some feathers there. And guess what we did? I talked to the guy, had a 10-minute conversation. Sometimes, listen, in my world, you could tell in just a few-minute phone call without pulling credit. Like, you could just tell it's going to be just fine. And that's what we did, right? I talked to him. I said, listen, I'm not here to take business from somebody you're happy with, who's treating you right. Let me get some basic questions. I just want to give Jimmy my stamp of approval, so to speak, right? Without going in depth. And we did that, and I'm assuming that one's going just fine.
Yeah, it's going through okay. But that guy ripped my head off. That guy ripped my head off on the phone, and that turned me off really bad. That guy is going to have a little mark in his file. And the next time, if I ever deal with him again, I'm going to remember. I'm not going to try to damage anything or anything, but I got to know who I'm dealing with. And that guy was not professional, because the first thing he said to me is, how dare you trying to take business from me? And I go, first of all, I'm not even allowed to do that, and the seller isn't either. The seller can't demand as part of the deal that you have to use XYZ mortgage broker. You're not allowed to do that in Florida, right? Seller can't say, hey, I'll sell you my house, but you got to go to, I don't even know if it exists anymore, so I'm going to
Mike the mortgage
Wachovia, like the old company or whatever. Like, you can't, I want you to go to this bank or you don't get my house. You can't do that. But the seller does have a right to get a second opinion to make sure that the buyer is qualified for the loan. And that's all we're doing. And the reason why Mike does that for free. It's a courtesy to us because of the relationships we've had for so long. And I know that Mike, not one time in we've been together now, 6-7 years? Not one time has Mike said he can get a loan for one of our buyers and not got the loan. Not one time. Okay?
It's a pretty good track record.
That's pretty decent. Yeah.
100%. Right? So all we want to know is, are you qualified for loan? And when you get upset with the listing agent for asking that question as a mortgage person, that's huge red flags. That's, rockets shooting up in the air saying, warning, warning, so you really got to do it. Now, that guy, he did sound so as angry as he was, he sounded like he knew what he was doing, and he's been around a long time. But you know what his answer to me was? He says, I can't believe you're questioning me. I've been doing this for 23 years. How do I know he's been doing it for 23 years? I just saw his pre-qualification letter 15 minutes before I called him.
That's right.
I don't know who he is.
And
I just want to make sure my seller is going to close. I'm sorry.
It's got to close. That's the whole goal. And I was going to say, I've known there's people, colleagues of mine, working for the same company of me, who have been doing loans for 20 something years, and sad to say, but I would rather them work with me, not just because I want the business, but because I trust myself more than I would trust some of those. They're not dinosaurs, but they've been doing loans they've been doing loans a different way for a long time, a different approach than the one that I take. But
and here's what you don't want to hear from your loan officer or mortgage broker when you're the listing agent and you're calling up asking, what did you do to qualify the buyer for the loan? This is what the guy's answer was. First, he rips my head off and accuses me of being unethical and breaking state regulations. So that's the first thing he tells me, right? Then the second thing he says, I did everything that you need to qualify a person for a loan. That was his answer to me. I almost hung up on him. I almost said, this isn't our buyer. But I felt like it could be our buyer because the buyer and the buyer's agent were highly motivated. So I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. But they got the deal, but they almost lost it. That buyer almost lost it. And in this case, it wasn't the realtor. It was the loan officer that almost killed the deal for them.
You know what's funny, Jim, is I have those conversations a lot. Like, I encourage listing agents. I say, listen, put in your offer. Let them know that I'm available. Like, they want to call me and ask questions. And my goal with that conversation, like, I'm advocating for the buyer's position that they're really strong. Like, I'm trying to have a friendly conversation with you, Jim, and say, listen, these buyers, listen, I looked at their stuff before they made this offer. I made sure I ran it through the automated underwriting. Like, this is solid gold, rock solid, easy loan. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in this time frame. Hopefully your appraised value is good. If it's not, maybe there's some wiggle room, whatever it is. But that should be like a super friendly conversation. You and I should be best friends. Not only do I want to close this loan, Jim, I want you sending me your buyers in the future. Like, I want to be your mortgage guy, right?
Yeah, you want him hanging up the phone going, man, Mike Rauch, that guy's sharp, feeling good about my offer now, and I'm going to call him again. Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that this guy, when we get the deal done, that he just reaches out to us and say, sorry, I accused you of trying to steal business from me. Because, life's too short. Life's too short. Just do the right thing. Everything will come to you the way it should be. And that is what we do. And if everything that we're saying right now, if you're thinking of hiring an agent and you're interviewing agents right now, listing agents, and they're not talking to you about this stuff that we're talking to you before they take your listing, maybe you should be interviewing other agents at the same time, because this is stuff we talk about with our sellers before we even put the house on the market. We actually have in our listing agreement the recommendation that they do request a second opinion if they feel it's needed, and giving us permission to do that. Because as the realtors, we can't require that. We can't require the second opinion for our seller, but the seller can request it, right? So we try to explain the seller the benefit of it, and I don't think not one time has a seller, well, actually, no. Over the 10 years, we've had 3 or 4 people said that they didn't want that clause in there because they were afraid that it would turn buyers off. Okay, that buyers would get upset, just like this loan officer was. But that was during a different cycle where it was more of a buyer's market, not a seller's market. So the sellers were much more worried about hurting buyers' feelings at that point. We don't have that situation going on right now.
No.
The sellers are like, when you walk over to them, they like kick dirt on your shoes and stuff over the house lately. I mean, it's really crazy what the sellers have over the buyers now, which I hope will be changing. Let's just wrap up this segment, Mike, with just a little bit of what's happening in the market. The next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the market, and we're going to talk about Zillow and why Zillow losing $500 million. Yes, $500 million. Zillow has announced that they lost $500 million in their real estate ventures, not their portal, the search engine, but actually buying and selling in real estate because their Zillow estimates were screwed up.
The zest
among
of
other
it.
things.
Oh, no.
We're going to talk about that. But before we get into that, let's just talk about interest rates real quick, Mike. So we've been going up now for five or 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks, up. I think 1 week in there was flat. But we got all the way up to, I think, 3.14 last week or 3.18. I can't remember.
3.14, yeah.
3.14. We're down to 3.09. So this was our first little dip. I mean, we're talking like micro pennies here on a mortgage, okay? But just to give you a trending of what's happening with the interest rates, we had a little, really tiny dip, but we're basically flat, basically. We've been flat now for a little bit. We're still a little bit over a quarter point than we were in April. In June. We're about a quarter point higher than June. Quarter point isn't the end of the world. That's almost a fluctuation. But it's still a great time to refi. Mike was saying that if you got your loan in late 2018 or parts of 2019, that you definitely should be picking up the phone and saying, hey, do I need to refi my house? If you've got the 20% equity and you've been paying your PMI, but you've got the 20% equity now, this is still a really great time to refi. You got to pick up the phone and call. Yes. And why are you going to call Mike, the mortgage firm and the one-stop real estate shop of the Florida Talk Real Estate Group? Because we're going to tell you the truth about whether you should refi or not. We're not just going to tell you if you can refi or not, but we're going to tell you why you should or should not refi.
Yeah.
That's the important part. It isn't just about whether you can refi. You got to know if you should refi or not, right?
Yeah, and it's weird, because Mike said earlier, 20 minutes ago, he gets paid when deals close. So it feels weird to hear conversations where Mike's like, nah, you know what? I don't want to get paid on this deal. You shouldn't refi. It's because he's talking you out of something where he's gonna actually get paid for it. But that's the honest breakdown of your situation. Every situation is like a snowflake. We've said it for 10 years. Every situation is different. And you get the breakdown, the honest depiction of your positioning, where your break-even numbers are, how it all shakes out. And then you get the professional guidance opinion from Mike. Like, nope, this isn't the right time to do it. Now, if you say, I'm doing it, Mike, he'll go, all right, well, we're doing it.
That's right.
That's just the brass tacks, right, Mike?
If you're, and sometimes that happens, right? I always try to approach that refi conversation in two approaches or two ways. What Jimmy just said: should you refinance? Number one, can you refinance? Number two, very few people, I would say, aren't interested in the should you. Like, they've already done the analysis, they already know that they're doing this, they're moving forward. Now they're just trying to find the best rate, right? Like, ultimately it comes to what's the best rate. And in that case, I'll say, I'll just breeze through that. Say, okay, you're good. All right, now let's talk rates. Jim, you mentioned something that people who bought within the last year and a half with lower down payments that include mortgage insurance, especially if you did an FHA loan, because of the rising home values, you may have reached that 80% or 20% equity position, right? Where your home, you have the ability to refinance potentially and knock out that mortgage insurance. And if you can get the same or better interest rate than your current one, it might make sense, right? So maybe some people are thinking, I just bought, right? I just bought last year, a year and a half ago. I'm not refinancing. That's crazy. But it's at least worth a conversation, right?
You might be able to save. You might be able to save almost a point or more just from the PMI.
Sure.
Just the private mortgage service, you might be able to shave off a whole point. Through this, even if you get the same mortgage rate.
Exactly. Like, if you can cancel the MI, especially on an FHA loan where that mortgage insurance just is going to be for the life of the loan, it's really worth looking into. Another one that I find a lot is people who, when they did their original loan, maybe their credit wasn't as good right? Once, Johnny, you know this. Once you start having a mortgage on your credit and you're like making payments, right? You can see a pretty significant increase in your credit scores. And if you could get a 100-point jump in a year's time, and all of a sudden that makes your interest rate a lot better now than it could have been or would have been or was when you purchased a home. So
Absolutely.
If your credit has come up, that's another one.
And getting back to the equity in the home though, Mike, and the credit is a great insight. That's a great insight, because let's say you were an FHA buyer trying to squeak in, and now you've had the house for 2 years.
Yeah.
Now your credit score is much stronger. But this is the other thing. We've had such strong appreciation this year, especially this year, that 20%, that 20% threshold of equity, you might have it and not even realize it. Like Mike is saying, it's really, really important to really consider that, because what a great move. What a smart financial move. If you realize, hey, I know I bought my house 9 months ago and I put 5% down, but now I got 20% equity and I want to get rid of my PMI, and maybe I can get a lower interest rate. What an awesome financial move to set you up at the lowest interest rate possible. You get rid of the PMI before the correction.
Yeah. And you're resetting your 30. You said resetting your 30 years, like you didn't even start it yet, practically. I mean, it's just,
and then on top of it, if the market corrects it a little bit, like everybody's expecting the slowdown, if that happens, you've taken care of all this at the peak with the best opportunity to set yourself up for the best situation, even though you might have only bought your house 1 to 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and a key distinction, Jim, we're not talking about carving out that equity to go buy the boat, right? Or the toy, or the motorcycle, right? We're basically, we want you to keep your equity or take advantage of the current equity position in your home to get yourself into a lower payment, ideally, lower interest over the life of the loan, like just better for you all around. And if it's not, I'm going to be the one to tell you, hey, no. Stand back. You're fine. This thing's gonna work out just fine. You don't need to do anything. Right?
And Mike,
if there's any loan originator out there that would do that, I'm the one that.
Mike has done that time and time again.
So true.
Hey, Johnny, let's go ahead and take a break. We're already at 10:31. Let's take a break. On the flip side, we're going to talk first about Zillow. We're going to round up with the market. A lot of interesting things happening in the national economic outlook that might be affecting South Florida. So we're going to be talking about that.
We're going to cram in a bunch more for you. Thanks for being with us on a Saturday. 2 hours of infotainment, and we'll round it out with a bunch more. And you can always reach out to this team, ladies and gentlemen. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, answered by a live body. Of course, I'm talking about our hotline, 888-973-7828. Your access to the entire team, your one-stop real estate shop, 888-973-7828. You'll find that hotline at floridatalkrealestate.com. floridatalkrealestate.com. Find us on YouTube. Find us on Facebook, where we go live every Saturday. Great to have you with us. We're back 4 minutes from now. Great to always have you with us. Thank you so much. Spread the word. It's Florida Talk Real Estate right here on Real Radio.
We'll be your friend. Follow us at Real Radio 92.1 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This is WZZR FM, West Palm Beach, Real Radio 92.1, powered by the law offices of Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Been in an accident? Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733.
Hey there, I'm CBS 12 Storm Track meteorologist Zach Covey. Behind that storm system we saw on our Friday, now it's all about the cooler air mass. This weekend, we'll be clearing out our skies. Very breezy conditions at times, especially for the Treasure Coast. But the cooler air comes in. We'll have daytime highs in the mid-70s, overnight lows in the 50s, 60s.
This report is sponsored by Tri-County Metals. Get great looks, durability, and energy efficiency in your next roof at Tri-County Metals. With over 50 energy efficiency color options, Tri-County Metals is sure to have the right look for you. Learn more at TriCountyMetals.com. Next day delivery is available. TriCountyMetals.com.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. It's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
Get great looks, durability, and energy efficiency in your next roof at Tri-County Metals. With over 50 energy efficiency color options, Tri-County Metals is sure to have the right look for you. Learn more at TriCountyMetals.com. Next day delivery is available. TriCountyMetals.com.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
That's it. It's toll free at 877-927-6969 with about 20 minutes remaining. Plenty of time for your phone call. If you dial it, Jimothy will line you up. We'll get you right on the air. Remember, Florida Talk Real Estate is a .com, your one-stop real estate shop. It's floridatalkrealestate.com, and you'll find the hotline there. 888-973-7828. You can call it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, answered by a live body. And we will get back to you very, very shortly thereafter, I assure you. Johnny C., that's me. Good morning, Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great this morning. The sun is out now, so I'm feeling great. It's going to be a nice, cooler Florida winter weekend.
So are we done with the rain for the weekend now? Is it?
I feel like it shouldn't have been here this morning, but something rolled in.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, I guess so. I guess we are.
I know, like Lake Worth yesterday, they got like 5 inches of rain. I was making my way around. Man, there were all kinds of street issues. If you're making your way out and about, pack your patience. Sometimes, Florida might be sunny right now and the rain's coming. But yeah, just be careful out there. Care about each other on the roads. Oh, and if I can give one PSA, pay attention at a red light because you're going to drive me insane.
You mean it when you're stopped and it turns green and then you don't go?
So I have this new idea that I think is very, very, very important in where we're at right now, because so many people just get straight on the phone at a red light, right? How about when a light turns green, there's like a little like an air horn that goes off to let everybody know, so I don't have to feel like the jerk way back going,
Beep, beep, beep.
No, I don't do it mean like because I don't want anybody. Yeah. But well, I got good joy the other day though. I gave a deet, 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 and way up front I heard a bump bump. I was like, all right, thanks for the help. And you know what? We all made that light that morning. So
at some point, Johnny, I switched from like kind of like the angry like to the the polite
yeah,
right? Because I
That's
found
great.
myself in that position like one too many times where I'm like, wait a second, I can't get mad because I've I've done this myself. Where
Well, unfortunately, the person right in front of you thinks you're honking at them, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm just trying to let everybody ahead of you know, because nobody else is honking, so you're all on the phone. Like we have to work together. The light's green. Can we all go? Please?
Johnny, have you ever been the honker and then all of a sudden you're like, what's going on? You do the honk and then you see like a couple going through the crosswalk, like you see them come out in front of the car, like a bicycle or something.
It's like 10 wheelchairs,
yeah.
Walkers. You're like, oh, I'm a jerk. So yeah, pay attention, be patient, and definitely come on, let's work together at these red lights. We all want to make these red lights. I think Jim DePola agrees with me. He runs a top producing Keller Williams team. That's Keller Williams Reserve Palm Beach. If you're wondering what team that is, the Florida Home Pros is one of those top producing teams. Jimmy D, how you be?
I'm doing good, Johnny. I'm good, doing good. Happy South Florida, everybody.
All right, squeeze it in.
So Johnny isn't going to like this, but the Gators suck. Last year they kind of sucked. I mean, last week, this week they suck again because next week we're going to be off because we're being preempted by the Gators, the game. So we'll have to see. I think there's 3 more games that are to be decided. We'll see how many of those.
7:30 tonight against Carolina. I believe it's noon next week at Samford at Gainesville. So that's why it's a noon
you
one.
predicted that.
And then it's Florida State. That's not going to be a noon game.
Yeah, so that's good. But then I think there's 2 more or 1 more after that. So we'll have to see.
How did they do against Georgia?
As expected.
Yes, exactly.
They didn't get shut out. And thank goodness I'm not on the radio or I'd be doing some stupid Georgia fight song wearing a bunch of Georgia Bulldog
Yeah, that's
gear.
true. That's true.
Oh, man, if I was still in the penthouse, I'd be paying so mightily.
You
right
were
now.
sweating, though, right? There were some points on the board there, and I said there was a big fat 0 for the Gators for a while, right?
So when you get points on the board and that's your victory for the day, it shows you how well that game went.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that.
Oh, dogs! See, that stuff never dies. It never dies.
I record the game every week, but that week I wasn't really interested because I kind of predicted what was going to happen, and I think I saw the headline at either 27-0 or 34-0, and then I was like, "Yeah, I'm nuking that game. I'm not even taking the time to watch it." It's like I know what happened.
Yeah. No, it's Georgia's a very, very good football team. I know rivalry games you can throw everything out, but what you don't throw out is the fact that they are loaded with talent on that roster. So yeah, you're right, Jimmy D. There's a Missouri game in between the Florida State and Florida, so a couple more weeks. That
so
Missouri game could be a noon kick, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it could be. So okay, now I want to talk about another company that has its own problems, and that's Zillow. And, ever since we started this show, way back in January 2012, we've always made fun of Zillow's Zestimates, right? The whole Zestimate thing. How the hell is some computer thing going to know what your house is really worth? And Zillow had all these, and this is all my opinion now. I'm just telling you my opinion. So I'm couching this, and Zillow's in the news, and that's why I'm talking about it. But Zillow always said, as our algorithms get better and we have more and more data inputs in our system, or our valuations are going to get better and better and better. And, in my opinion, that never really happened. And the biggest problem is there's
I think in their opinion too.
But there's so many people that rely on Zillow for what they kind of think their house is worth. And the 2 biggest mistakes you can make on determining what your house is worth is either relying on a computer, what's called an automatic valuation model. They call them AVMs, right? Automatic valuation model, which basically is a computer algorithm that goes into a geographic area and tries to hit certain data points and then try to determine what your house is worth. The second biggest mistake you can make is going to your property appraiser and finding out what your assessed value is, because neither of those two things are really a real true valuation of your home. And now Zillow's proven it, because what happened was in 2017, they got into the real estate market. So at first they were an advertising company, advertising properties on their website that, in my opinion, were stolen from the agents through the MLS system.
Basically.
We'll get into that some other time.
Yeah.
But Zillow took the MLS information and then started advertising and making money off the information that they bought from the MLS, regardless whether realtors wanted that or not. And then they were making money off of advertising, right? Now they decided in 2017, they said, hey, we're going to get into the market. We know this market better than anybody. We're national. We have more information. We're going to go out there. And they started buying properties. So a couple of years ago, what I started telling everybody, Trident Title is owned by the largest conglomerate of title companies in the country. So Trident Title, our sponsor, is one of the largest title companies in the country.
Yep.
And they've done analysis after analysis after analysis nationwide to find out as title companies, they would know what's happening on the inside of these closings, because they're the title company closing these deals. So they were doing analysis of all these iBuyer programs. Now, it's not just Zillow going out there offering to buy your house. There's Redfin and Open Door, and Keller Williams has an iBuyer program, which I don't like. All of these companies have these things called iBuyer programs. And what they are is a company that never comes and looks at your house or anything and just offers you a price on your home based on the computer valuation model. And it was getting really popular, and everybody was saying that this was going to push out realtors, that realtors are going to become extinct, just like travel agents. When was the last time you thought of hiring a travel agent? Most people, unless they're going on a big trip, they're not going to a travel agent. When I was trying to book my crappy trip to Milwaukee, Wisconsin this weekend, I wasn't calling up a travel agent. I was going on kayak
to Canoe,
Chicago.
Canoe.com, yeah.
So they think that Zillow was trying to push out the agents in general, and I always believe that this is the largest purchase or the largest sale in your life, and that you're going to need a professional in there. Because how is Zillow going to help you if you find out that your roof is past its useful life? How are you going to be helped by that? Or that your insurance isn't going to happen correctly because of the restrictions that are happening in Florida right now. All that stuff, you need an agent, you need professionals out there to help you with all that stuff, right?
Yes.
But
hey, Jim, just real quick to interject there, because I think we even had a show talking about that a couple years back. But I think that was about do you need an agent to sell your home? Do you need an agent to help you buy a home? This is different, right? Zillow switched from
is
that.
The buyer. Zillow is the buyer in this case. So what
and
happened,
of course,
right? So what they did was what we showed through the statistical analysis done by the nationwide company from Trident Title is that a couple of years ago, what we found out is the average Zillow seller, the ones that sells to Zillow or any iBuyer program, any iBuyer, not just Zillow itself, they were losing about 9% of what they could get if they hired an agent.
Right.
So even if the agent charged 6%, they'd still be making 3% more than if they just brought in an iBuyer company. Now, why would people do that? Okay. Why would people do that? The reason why, some people don't want to have the hassle of showing the property. They don't like showing it. They don't want to stage it. They just want a fast sale so they can get on to the next chapter of their life. And they're willing to leave money on the table for the convenience of it. But it isn't really that convenient, because the thing is, you're getting less than what you can get on the open market. And in today's market, it's crazy to do those iBuyer programs, because your house is literally sold in hours. The 4 of my houses that I put on the market, 4 of the last 8, I'm being generous here, I think 4 of the last 6 houses we put on the market sold in hours. So why lose the 3%? It just doesn't even make sense to me, right?
Or lose 9% or whatever it could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Why take 9% less so that you don't want to spend 12 hours showing your property? Really?
I think if I remember that conversation, I remember you broke down those numbers big time, Jim. I want to say the average that was left on the table was like $40,000 or something like that.
Like, because of the medium sales prices across the country, everything was crazy. The amount of money.
It's a lot of money.
And the other thing is that they don't buy any house. Okay, so it isn't like we buy houses fast for cash. We don't care what your house looks like. We want your beat up house and we're going to buy it fast for cash. They're not like that. What they want is houses that need minimal fixing up, little bit of paint, like even putting in the kitchen's questionable. They want like painting, flooring, put in a new AC, get the heck out of there. They don't want houses where you've got to replace the roof and put in new kitchens and new bath. No, they don't want that. They want houses they can turn over very quickly. So here's the funny part of how Zillow pulled out of the iBuying program, which was stunning. It was stunning in the industry. They're still talking about it right now, okay, because it was just announced like 2 weeks ago. So here's the thing, what we found out over the last 2 weeks. Number one, they lost $500 million in their iBuyer program right now, but they're expecting that the losses by the end of the year is going to be another $250 million to $750 million lost. Now, at first, what they were saying was, yeah, we bought too many houses, and because of the pandemic, we couldn't hire enough contractors to fix up the houses. So that's why we're pulling out, because we can't get the contractors to fix up the houses. Yeah. Hey, I got a bridge to sell you too, because
you saying there's no merit to that? There's nothing in that?
Well, let's talk to the president of the company. The president of the company said, and this is out last week, and I'm reporting this from Inman News, okay, just in case, okay. The quote was from this guy named Barton. I don't even know what his last name is, but he's the president of Zillow, and he said, or observed, one of the reasons why we're having a problem with selling the houses, he said, is that their Zestimates weren't accurate enough when they were buying the houses. And they said, our observed error rate has been far more volatile than we thought possible.
So they put again, every bit of faith in their estimates.
Yes.
Even though the rest of us, even the uneducated like me, who've just been watching this over the years, they're like, well, that's clearly off, and you know the reasons why. But they put so much faith in it that they invested their basic company. They're standing on their iBuyer. They dove all in on their estimates.
Yeah, but the thing is, Johnny, is like you said that most people, even though most people know that Zillow is wrong, most people don't know that.
Well, I'm talking in general from this show. Okay.
Oh yes, our educated audience, right, should know better than not to use Zillow. Now Zillow's right. Zillow's right sometimes, right? But a broken clock is right twice a day too.
That's right.
Right? So Zillow's never going to know that if you have a 1998 house in a neighborhood that was built in 1998, okay, in the late 1990s, they don't know if you put in a new kitchen or a new roof or a new AC compared to your neighbors. They don't know if the neighbor down the street that sold for $560,000, just did a major renovation on every square inch of the house, and you have the same house that's 300 square feet less and it's original everything. Zillow doesn't know how to do that. You can't figure that out, right? They can't rely on that. But here's the more damning quote, other than that other quote I just said. In that same interview, he said, fundamentally, we have been unable to predict the future pricing of homes to a level of accuracy that makes this a safe business to be in. So what Zillow's saying is, we don't know how to be a real estate brokerage. We know how to advertise the properties, but we don't know how to sell the properties, because listen to this.
They're saying
60% of the homes that they bought sold for less than what they paid for them. 6 out of 10.
They're saying they don't know how to be property flippers, right? Like Jim, you were in that world, and you're buying something, and you know what it's going to take to get it to a position where it can be sold, and you're going to have some money to put in the bank, right, when it's all said and done. Zillow did that on a massive scale, and they just didn't have whatever it took to be successful property flippers.
Now there's a more insidious theory about what was happening here. There's actually some people in the appraisal community nationally that we're talking about, and it may be being investigated right now because there's a federal investigation in Zillow about antitrust stuff. But one of the things that they might have been doing, they've been buying, and there's many iBuyer companies are doing this. They're paying more than the real valuation of the property. They're paying more for that than what the market bears. They're paying higher than market values. And the reason why Zillow was doing that, they were feeling that the property values were going up so fast, like a stock, they could buy low and sell high, but not based on today's value, where let's say the house is worth 100 and you're buying it for 75, you're putting 5,000 into it, and then you sell it for 100. What they're doing is, if the house is worth 100 fixed up, they're paying 105 and then trying to sell it for 120 when the house is only worth $100,000.
Yeah, hoping the market moves on them.
Right, so it can keep going the way that they're seeing, right?
And apparently Zillow and some of these other iBuyers, they go into concentrations of certain neighborhoods that they want to buy, and then they gobble up a ton of homes in there. And
Pump
then
up the price.
When their houses weren't selling, they would go in and buy a new home in the neighborhood. This is the theory. And then pay an outrageous amount for it, hoping to change the comps in the neighborhood for all the other homes.
That's dirty.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what's being talked about.
And investigate.
It sounds hard to implement on a large scale. So maybe they got these little pods of expert panels or whatever that are looking at kind of neighborhood by neighborhood. I don't, Jim, is there any talk about how leveraged Zillow is with these properties? I mean, is this on borrowed money, or is this out of their coffers? I got to think it's borrowed money. It's got to be leveraged.
I don't know. I just don't know that. But here's the takeaway on this. Okay, we're not just telling it to gloat.
Yeah.
If you really want to know what your house is worth, especially in today's market, you need to have a professional with a track record that can show you exactly how they priced the home and the results they had based on doing it with other properties. Don't rely on a computer to tell you what your house is worth. You could be way off too high and not be able to sell the house, but you also could be way too low. Many of the houses that we're selling right now are not in good repair, but we're getting top dollar for them because we have a formula on how to make that work. You're never going to get that from a computer. You're never going to get it.
And you got to get your guesstimate.
Yeah, the guesstimate or the
Depestament.
Yes, exactly. So, look, if you're thinking that you really don't know what you should do with your house, or if this is the good time or not, or you want to buy and sell and you don't know how to do both at the same time, you just got to give us a call. We're going to sit down with you. We're going to do the same thing we do with everybody. Figure out what's best for you, and then get you to the next chapter, whatever that is.
Well, that's just it. Yeah, don't fill in the blanks on your own. Have a great sit down with Jim or anybody on the team.
Oh, there he is.
And what can happen in the future? Like, what can be reality? Again, don't fill in those blanks on your own. Go to people that are great at what they do and take advantage of their knowledge, their know-how, and their understanding of the market, how it's going to move, how it affects you, and how you can be positioned oh so perfectly. We're fixing to do it. We're going to have my house on. You want to buy my house? Get ready. It's coming on the market.
Yeah, Johnny's coming.
Yeah, I'll even sign the walls for you. I'll do that. Great to have you with us every single Saturday. Thank you very much. Spread the word. Florida Talk Real Estate on Facebook, YouTube. Ton of information to be consumed. If you're over there, subscribe, like, get the notifications. Thank you very much. You're helping out our guy, Jimmy D, by simply doing that. If you're with us, thank you for always doing that. Spread the word. You never know when you can change somebody's life by sending them to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, the one-stop real estate shop buying a home, selling a home, stuck with a home you don't know what to do, looking for a refi, shop property insurance, need to work on student loan debt, loan modification. My goodness, the list goes on and on. We do it all. The one-stop real estate shop, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Mike Rauch, have a great weekend.
You too. Happy weekend. Happy South Florida, everybody.
And enjoy your extra hour. Yes. Jimmy D, have an awesome weekend as well, my friend.
I'm not falling back. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, Jim's going to fight it, and I understand. I love that about you. Thank you very much, Jimothy, for running things for us as always. Stick around. Jimothy's going to hang out with Greek and Joe. The locker room is next, and we'll see you, soon on a Saturday. 2 hours of infotainment. It's every Saturday right here, Florida Talk Real Estate on Real Radio.
When you give up